Hello, hello, good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Q&A Wednesday. Let me get my timer. So this week I'm going to be covering a question that I have been asked. Actually, it's interesting because although I've been asked this question, I get asked this question quite regularly. So I wanted to cover it. It's a seasonal question. So if you are watching this, whether it's live now or on the replay, do share this with other people that you think would get great benefit and great interest from this too. So here's the thing. At this time of year, a lot of people's thoughts are about reflecting back and looking forward. And this is one of the main things that are going to help answer this question, because I hear all sorts of things, especially from people in my community who say things like, I don't do resolutions, I don't do New Year's resolutions, I don't do goal setting, I put stuff out there and wait for it to come back. I hear that a lot. So how do you set really great goals, really workable goals, without having to go through the whole goal process piece? So if you have come to this part of the year and you're thinking to yourself, there are so many things I wanted to do, so many things I wanted to learn, so many things I wanted to know, so many things I wanted to achieve, and you haven't achieved them yet, please do take heart. This is not a time of year to be comparing yourself to other people, bashing yourself over the head, or anything else like that. It's a great time of year, however, to reflect, especially this year, because I'm hearing from so many of my clients, my peers, my friends, this year has been a tough year for a lot of people. Not only, it seems, for a lot of them in their personal and professional lives, but also globally. We've had Brexit this year, the US presidential elections this year, and for a lot of those more global questions, a lot of those more global issues, if you like, there have been a lot of very unhappy people, a lot of people that haven't been getting the results that they've wanted, and those are a little bit out of their control. So I welcome you. It's the same drill. I see that there's numbers of people watching, but I can't always see who's watching. So if you are watching, please, do type in the box and say hello, and I will gladly say hello back. If you're watching this and you're finding it hard to interact, make sure that you've A, liked this page, and B, after this live stream, just make sure that you've subscribed for updates from this page as well. I don't bombard you with updates, but this is the page where all things visibility happens. So if you are about being seen, getting different results in your life and in your business, this is definitely the place to come to. So today's topic, I'm just looking to just make sure that I get this question correct, because it's quite important, especially the language that the person uses. So they wanted to they asked me, well, how do I work towards stuff without making energy sapping goals, is exactly what they said. So the sorts of goals, when I then asked them a supplementary question, these are the sorts of goals they said that they feel more demotivated than motivated at the end of it. So how do you work towards stuff without making energy sapping goals? From a coaching perspective, hey Alan, good morning Jenny, big waves back. How do you make these goals without sapping your energy? It's interesting. There's a little factoid I'm going to tell you here, I'm going to share with you. I say factoid because I can't quantify where I've heard this or who said this. There has been some research done about the human psyche. Francie says, morning lovely lady, morning Alan, morning. And in this, we can be driven towards attaining things that we want to achieve, and we can be trying to get away from stuff. Let me use the examples of two people that are on here now. So Alan takes people from rough seas into calm waters, basically. In any area of their life, they might have had something huge that feels huge to them, personal or work related, and he helps to kind of steer them into these calm waters. Now, many of the people that are going through a situation or something that Alan can help them with, there are going to be a higher percentage of people saying, I can't take this anymore. This situation's driving me crazy. I have to get out of it. So where they are, they're actually in that. And there's two markers to look out for, listen out for, and they can be different on any given situation. There are people that are trying to get towards a better life. You know, I want a new house, new car, new job, more money, more success, or something like that. Those people are actually in the minority. They're about a third of the population, if not a little bit less than that, who are driven towards their goals. Many people, however, are driven to get away from things. I'm not going to have another year like I have this year. The situation I'm in at the moment is miserable. You know, I can't cope. And that's how they'll express it in their language. Now, for France Lees, who's an osteopath that helps people with pain, it's be interesting because this is not an area that I've personally worked in a lot. With my NLP skills, my NLP background, many years ago, I did actually do an exercise which was weird but worked wonderfully to help somebody who's experiencing pain at that moment to not experience so much pain. That's not a medical claim or anything else like that, but it's just a technique, a bit cognitive, that you use in NLP. So my understanding is that so many people are trying to get out of the current situation and less people are looking towards things. Now, the reason I quantify that was because in this person's question, they said, how do I work towards stuff without making energy sapping goals? So they're very forward driven, which is less usual. Okay, so many of France Lee's people will probably approach her because they're in a situation that they can't take anymore, and I'm paraphrasing whatever words they would use, but they can't take it anymore. So they don't want to be in pain anymore, or they're sick and tired of not being able to sleep. So where they are now is uncomfortable for them, uncomfortable enough for them to want to shift out of it. And the reason that I say that is because it does you well, it serves you well to look at where you are right now and look at whether you are an away from person, getting out of the current situation, or a towards person. These are the things that I want to achieve. When you start from that place, it makes it easier to set the kind of goals for yourself that you like. You might not call them goals. I've heard people talk about them as objectives, intentions, wishes, desires. It's funny because the word goals actually triggers a lot of people. They go, oh, no, I don't set goals. It's not my style. I wait for God to provide, or the universe to provide, or my friends to provide, or somebody else. When actually, the real thing to look at is whether you are I need to get out of this right now person, or I need to move towards this. So, for example, in France Lee's field, it's interesting. I wonder how many people, when they speak to France Lee's, will say, I'm in pain, or I've got this, I can't sleep, or something like that, my back hurts or whatever. But you know what? I'm looking forward to days when I'll be pain-free, because sometimes when you are in pain specifically, it's really, really heavy going. It's so heavy going that you are likely to not even be able to see your way out of the pain. And France Lee says, interesting perspective. It's so interesting. It's part of my coaching training and part of the NLP training and stuff that I've done over the years, and it leaks out in people's language, and it also leaks out in their body language, but that's a subject for another thing. And by the way, me saying that doesn't mean that for those of you I meet in the flesh that I stand there and obsessively look at your body language and try and read it. There's too much going on in the world for me to be exhausted myself doing that. It would be a bit like being a psychic who never switches off and walks around the world, going up to people and giving them messages. So just to be clear, I don't do that. So yeah, Francie says, no one's ever said that to me, and it's true. And this is why I'm saying people aren't categorised as a person that wants to get out of something. We call it an away from or towards person. We're not categorising people as that. But a lot of people, when they hit a certain level of pain where they seek help because they don't want to be in that place anymore. So they're trying to get away from it. People in debt are normally trying to get out of debt. It says it in their language. I want to get out of debt. I want to get away from debt. Very few of them, when the you-know-what really hits the fan, say, oh, I want to be financially free. They're like, yikes, I need to be out of debt. And for those of you that have taken the time to come on and watch, I'm labouring this point especially for you, because especially when you're looking at marketing, promoting your services and visibility, the thing that I love doing the most, and helping you stand out, you want to really pay attention to the language you're using, because you're the expert at getting people to where they need to be, myself included. I talk a lot about visibility when in fact people don't voice or verbalise visibility. They might say, I need a little bit more visibility. That's a towards piece. But on the whole, they'll say, I'm sick of being passed over, ignored. I should have had a better year this year. That's it. My time, you know, this is my time now. And there's a recognition they want to get out of it. And this has worked for big brands as well. I think there was a case, and I'm going back from memory now, like years, probably over a decade, where one of the big tinned food manufacturers did something with their recipe and improved it, and the writing on the tin said something like new improved flavour, which is a generic thing that a lot of food companies say. However, people didn't want new improved flavour. They didn't want to go towards a new improved flavour. They wanted the good old fashioned stuff that they'd got accustomed to and used to. And I believe that after something like 7 months, they had to pull that word in because it affected their sales. Their sales dropped like exponentially. So this is how powerful it is. So the reason that I talk about that is because of this. When you're setting goals for yourself, how do you know wherever you are in those goals, whether you're a towards or away from person in that goal and in that moment? Here's what you do. You do something like you can do like a year in review. Now this is interesting. I've done a year in review for the last 6 or 7 years at some stage, and I always class my end of year for some reason as end of August and then beginning of September as a new year. I think it's a school thing that I've picked up. However, this year I'm really feeling, because it's been such a tough year, I'm really feeling it's almost like the energy of the New Year's resolutions, of the January the 1st being the start. And I've never really kind of picked up on that before. So for some reason, because I've decided that that's going to be my normal for this year, like everybody else, what it really made me do is it kind of threw me off my balance of what I would normally do. So luckily for me, I consulted with my own coach. I've got different coaches for different things, but I consulted with my own coach, and they have been going through a really great process. But what I want to share with you is not necessarily their process. I want to share with you the process that I would recommend to help you go from where you are now to where you want to be. Because for many of us, we need to get the recognition that we were in a place, maybe a place that we didn't want to be in, and we want to move forward. So here's what I recommend. I hope you've got some pen and paper to hand, or a very good memory, or a recording device or something. Or you know what, this is a Facebook Live, just come back and watch it again. And if you know of other people that could do with a bit of New Year's resolution, New Year, new goals, New Year, new plan, old year, kick that on the backside. As we say in the Caribbean, old year's night on New Year's Eve. If you want to get rid of the old year and go in with something fresh and new, there's no reason to wait until then. Start now. Use this exercise. So, first things first. You might not like this very much, but you need to review your year. Now, if trying to think back in the whole year boggles your brain like it did mine. I've got a good memory for facts and figures and things that happened 10, 20 years ago. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, what happened last month again? So if this is you, go back. If you've got a calendar or a diary, just have a look in that calendar or diary. Go back to January. Just look for maybe a meeting that you had, somewhere you went, a holiday. It will jog your memory as to what happened. And just put aside 10, 15 minutes and just go back and say, okay, what was the biggest lesson that I learned last year? I might ask you this question now, and you might say, okay, 2016, what was the biggest lesson that I learned? And that lesson might instantly spring into your mind. Okay, and if that does, great. If not, go back through the months. So I can certainly say for my year in review, in January, I made some not too astute moves. New year, new start, and I went for some slightly different pieces of business. So this is a business content example for me. I went for some slightly different pieces of business, and one of them was completely a dead cert. The next one, they weren't too sure, and I'm not into persuading people into working with me. I don't think that works. If you persuade somebody into working with you, they persuade themselves out of it quite quickly. So it's just not something I've ever done, or I did initially and learnt the hard way. So After a while, the person that was good to go had some stuff that they had to take care of. A director of a company had to take care of some issues that were going on within their business. And then before we knew it, we had postponed the start date. Fine with that, still hadn't taken payment for it. And then Brexit happened and shook the whole world up, shook the financial officer, chief financial officer, the COO, the CEO, and they decided they weren't going to go ahead with the project. So I kind of sat there for quite a few weeks, almost waiting to start this project, which then never happened. What I didn't do in the meantime was build up my pipeline. Now, you'd think that someone that's been in business for 6 years, this is my 6th year going into my 7th now, but this is my 6th year in business, you'd think that I would have had a plan B, and I didn't. So look back over your year, look for one major thing that stands out, but if not, go back through your months, January, February, March, and just kind of look through your diary and go there. First question, go there. What is the biggest lesson that I could learn from last year? Okay, and that was one of mine, about kind of how I did my business. And the reason that was so integral to me is that, of course, if my business doesn't make me any money or not enough money, it impacts my personal life. It impacts my ability to pay my bills. It impacts my ability to eat. Thankfully I don't have children to look after as well, but it would impact on that. It could impact on my mood, because if I'm then expecting to have a certain level of income and then don't, it could impact on that. It could impact on the holidays that I take. It could impact on, whether I can buy shoes or not, or whether I can treat myself or not. So that was a really great reflective lesson. So I want you to find your own lesson. Go back and ask yourself, first of all. So the first step is go back. First question, what lesson can I learn from this year? Okay, so first question, what lesson can I learn from this year? And if you're watching this on the replay or do want to share here, you can. Remember that here is a public page. The best place I'd advise you share is over in the Visibility Vibes Tribe Facebook group. It's a secret group, so the only people that can read what you post in the group are the people in the group, not your friends and family that you're connected to on Facebook, or even clients. Okay, so look back and say to yourself, well, what was my lesson from last year? Okay. And then the next question to ask yourself is, what do I need to forgive myself for? What do I need to forgive myself for? Now, as I say this to you, I'm actually making a note of this because I want to be able to share it in the Visibility Vibes Tribe as well. Okay, and the reason why you ask this question, what do I need to forgive myself for, is this. In my instance, I went back, and after I realised that I'd been really silly, or made a really silly and less discerning choice, I, for a very short space of time, stayed in a space of rubbishing myself, verbally beating myself up and telling myself how stupid I was, how rubbish I was. That's not very helpful. There comes a point where you have to lick your wounds, wipe your tears and dry your eyes and say, you know what I did was silly, but I need to move on. And the best way that I know to move on from feeling stupid or feeling shame is to forgive yourself for the thing and say, okay, Jenny, you did the best, with what you had at the time, the knowledge you knew. If you knew then what you know now, then of course you would never have done it. Cut yourself some slack. So ask yourself what you need to forgive yourself for, and make sure that you do that. And if you find it hard, because it won't take one, okay, you felt like you were silly and there, never mind. It might take for you 2 or 3 times a day to say, you know what, I forgive myself for making that decision that I made. It wasn't one of my best decisions, but I forgive myself anyway. This allows you to start looking at how you can move forward. So once you've forgiven yourself for this, now this is an excellent question to ask, and it's normally the question that people ask when they've made a mistake, but you can also ask it when something's gone really well. Oh, look at that, I've got a nice cup of peppermint tea. So you can ask this question when things go really well or when things aren't working out. I'm just going to put this tea down here. And this question is, and it's very specifically languaged, what will I do differently next time? Not better, not worse. I've given it its own acronym. What would I do differently next time? And I've actually had to type that so I can say it. So WWIDDNT. What will I do differently next time? Not better, not worse. Francelise, I hear you. Did that last Friday after crying for 30 minutes. Absolutely. Here's the thing. I am a coach and I'm into personal development. One of my pet peeves is when someone's going through a bad time, that some people in the personal development industry believe the best thing to do is to deny that feeling. Oh, stop crying, say an affirmation, you know, get rid of it. And trust me, affirmations have their place. But if you are going through something, it's like the emotion, your body is connecting with you to say, I feel this emotion. I really believe the first and best thing that you can do is to feel the emotion. Okay, so feel the emotion, do what you need to do, and then forgive yourself for it. Once you've gone through that, forgive yourself for it. Third point is ask the question, what will I do differently next time? So next time I go to quote for a new piece of work or someone that I don't know, I'll have the conversation with them really up front that they need to pay a deposit, as I've done before with like my corporate clients and other people like that. And I will completely do things differently. Now, the gold in the what will I do differently next time is it becomes a checklist, your own personal guide and checklist for this situation. You now become self-sufficient. I'm no longer like your crack teacher where you have to come back to me to say what's next, because you've done it for yourself and you've got it there for when you need it. Now, if you think this situation works brilliantly when you've done something that you could perceive is wrong or bad or something else, ask that what would I do differently next time when something's gone really well. Maybe you've cooked the best dinner, you've done some like really great baking, which I'm going to do a bit later on today, haven't baked for ages. Maybe you've done something that's worked out really well and you're like, that's brilliant, and what will I do differently next time? And it takes you to another high level. Okay, so first thing is ask yourself, what's your main lesson from last year, or lessons if you want to do a couple of them, and then with each lesson ask yourself, what do I need to forgive myself for, because that will be different. And then the third thing for each one, ask yourself, what will I do differently next time? Write them down, keep it as your checklist. If you journal or have a diary or have a note on your computer or have a sound file, you can do it any way you like. So once you've done that, then you can start to look at your forward planning. So given what you've learned from last year, the first question could be, well, what do I want to be different about 2017? And here's where we're going to go a little bit deeper. It's the end of year and everything else like that. So here's what we're going to go deeper with. So what would you like to be different for 2017? So once you've established what it is you want to be different, and I would say go for one thing to start off with. And if you've got other things, then go back again. I'm just typing a note so that I can share these with the Visibility Vibers. So what do you want differently? Which is actually demonstrating that I've got notes in my head, but I haven't written anything down for what I'm sharing. And if I don't do this, I've either got to watch my own video again or I'll forget to type the questions. So now you know what you want to do differently next time. I'm going to take you through 5 quick and dirty steps. I'm not going to go into much level of detail, but here's what you do. Here's how you set the kind of goals that don't leave you feeling energy drained, that don't leave you feeling by the 17th of January, which is the date apparently that most people have already ditched their New Year's resolutions, 17 days into the month, like not even 3 weeks. By that time, you will still be energized. And here's what you do. Step number 1, you look at the goal or the thing that you want to achieve and you write it down. Say it in your head if you have to, but write it down on a piece of paper or write it down on your computer. And what you do is you state what you want. Let me give you an example. I was speaking to somebody recently because I'm going to be speaking a lot more myself publicly and out again. I didn't do a lot of it this year. I looked at a lot of online stuff. And they said, yeah, I want to go out and get more speaking gigs, but I don't want to be doing like, you know, speaking gigs to small rooms, and I get really embarrassed and I don't want to keep going red when I speak, and I don't really want to speak to this type of section of the community, and I'm not really looking forward to having to travel or go abroad to speak just yet. Now, what was wrong with that? When they stated what they wanted, they stated quite a lot of what they didn't want. And when you state quite a lot of what you don't want, you kind of like feel the energy for the stuff you don't want. A bit like the towards and the away from, you keep getting more of the stuff that you don't want. So write down your stuff, don't filter it in any way, and then go back and check that you only ask for what you want. So when we cleaned up that conversation with that lady, then this is what it sounded like. It sounded something like, in 2017, I want to get more speaking gigs. There was a bit more that we did to clean it up, but can you hear the difference? All of the stuff that they didn't want, we completely ditched. We don't need to we don't need to repeat that. Reason why? Your subconscious mind takes the instruction. It doesn't listen in words, it listens in pictures. So if you say, I don't want to do something, it doesn't hear the word don't want to. It's like, oh, excellent, okay, add that to the list, go in red when they speak. Okay, so first step is to be really specifically clear on what you want. The second thing is to do a sense check. Do you really want this? I call this a Spice Girl question. Do you really, really want this? Just check that the thing that you want is something that you want, not what a spouse or a child or a sibling or a partner or an organisation or is expected of you. Make sure it's your own stuff. I did an interesting exercise like this on something, 2009 it was, and I realised this thing that I really wanted to achieve, apparently, the reason why I wasn't achieving it was because it wasn't what I wanted. It was expected of me. In the industry I was in, it was expected that I would go for this certain qualification, and it wasn't what I wanted. I wasn't interested in it, and I just didn't want it. And because I didn't want it, I wondered why I kept procrastinating and putting it off. Voila, there was my answer. So check number 2 is, do you really, really want this? And like I say, come back and rewatch this video and kind of work through it, pause, work through it. It's like having Jenny on your shoulder. So number 3, and this is one of the biggest areas where people don't do this, is get very, very specific, very, very laser focused. And the best way you can do this is date, time. So people will say, oh, I want to get an online course out next year, or I want to launch, or I'm thinking of putting this thing out. There's nothing specific about that. If it's got an ing at the end of it, your subconscious mind hasn't fully brought into it yet. So whatever the goal is that you're setting, let's talk about the speaking one. So there's a good example. Rather than I hope to be speaking in various places around the country, although it sounds nice and clear, that's still not clear. Speak in. So I'm going to say to myself, by the 31st of December 2017, I want to have spoken at least once a month to audiences that are interested in motivation, visibility, or something like that. I'm kind of making it up so you get the gist. But this is where you become very clear. You want a date that that goal will be achieved by, and you want a time, a specific time. Because I'm a bit quirky, I don't like to do the by the 31st of December type things. So I would say something like, you know, by the 21st of January 2017, I would have already spoken live and have something, you know, or specific dates in the diary for February 2017, for March 2017, you know, and so on and so forth. I have already got the opportunity to do something fantastic on the 31st. In fact, it goes the 29th, 30th and 31st of December 2017 in California. How great is that? But it's about putting the attention out there, being very, very precise, very, very specific. So make sure you've got a date and a time. You want to write a book? Fine. By which date and by which time? By 12 noon on the, you know, 17th of August, or when? So make sure that you've got that very, very clear, very, very specific. Okay. So that's step 3. Step 4 is just test in with yourself. How will you know you've got it? Now, If you want to write a book, you'll say, oh yeah, Jenny, I have the book in my hands. No, I'm not talking about that. Speaking gig, oh yeah, because I'll be on the stage speaking. No. Usually, when we want something, we get a secondary gain from it. Like when we don't want something, actually. When we don't want something, it protects us. But when we want something or want to achieve something, we get a secondary gain. It might be emotion. So, for example, sitting down and eating a big bowl of, banana custard might say, well, yeah, I'll know that I've got it because I have the bowl of banana custard in front of me. No. How will it make you feel? What will you be experiencing? What will you see? What will you hear? Will you hear the sounds of your mouth slurping the custard as you're eating this delicious custard? Will you feel warm custard in your mouth? Will it be cold custard? Will you be saying to yourself, you're in a dialogue, will you be saying, oh my gosh, this is so yummy. Oh, I'm going to do this every day. Will someone be going, oi, you, stop eating that custard and get back to work? Whatever's real for you. So how will you know that you've got the thing that you've got? So just a quick recap. Number one, ask for exactly what you want. Write it down. Really important. Type it down if you must, but writing it down is great. Number two, check that it's something that not only you really want, not only that you really want, but you really want and not someone else. Number three, get specific. Dates, times. Have a date and time in there. If there's no date and time in there, it's just a pipe dream. It's a wish. Something that may happen. Okay. Number four is, how will you know? What will you be seeing, hearing, feeling? What will people be saying around you? What will you be saying to yourself? Will you be going, oh my gosh, I can't believe it? Will you be doing a happy dance? Will you be hysterical? Get into that feeling. Experience it like it's happened already. And number five, look at your responsibility in this. And by this, I mean your ability to respond. If you want to be eating a big bowl of steaming custard once a month as a treat, are you going to be open for buying the custard, making the custard, buying the bananas? I know that's a silly example, but hopefully it gives you an idea. So the reason why I get you to think about your ability to respond to the thing that you want, if you've got the book, are you going to be able to cut out some time to write it? Even if it's 30 minutes. A lot of people think they have to spend 2 or 3 days. Oh, between Christmas and New Year, I've got 5 days, I'm going to write it then. That's a huge, big chunk. If you can make it become a regular habit, it will happen. From the summer, as some of you know, I decided that I wanted to wake up between 5 o'clock and 5:30. And I got to winter and I knew winter would be a challenge for me. And that's a classic example of talking about what I didn't want. And the minute I realised, I said, I want to be waking up between 5 and 5:30 every morning, all year round, including winter when it's dark. So I kind of gave a little instruction to my subconscious mind. And we are on the shortest day of the year. And my alarm went off at 5:05. And I woke up and went on social media for a little while, listened to a coach, that kind of thing. But I'm doing it, okay? So when you double check with your own ability to respond to a situation, the likelihood of it happening and putting in those steps just before, go times 10. Okay, it's like 10 times the result actually happening. It also means that if there are opportunities and possibilities for you to achieve that goal, that you start to see them. It's like they fall out of the sky from nowhere. It's like your eyes are open and your ears are open to hear and to see these new opportunities as they come in. And that's when you feel like you're living a magical life. And here's a little seal dealer, just to finish up that round of 5. Imagine now that whatever date and time you set in, that you're a week or a month afterwards and you're looking back and saying, oh my gosh, that was the day that I did the thing that you wanted to do. And then you kind of almost look back to today. What happened between the time of you achieving that thing and today? And when you look backwards, you start to see things that you need to do. Well, you know what? I needed to make sure that the kids were out of my hair for an hour, or I needed to make sure that, I set aside time and wrote the book, or I needed to make sure that I actually planned what I wanted to put in my course first before trying to sell it online, or I needed to identify the people that are going to help me to do it. So, you know, the first thing I did was I spent a month reaching out to different people until I found the right person, and then together we planned what was going next. So whatever the thing is for you, look back down that line. So good luck with the goal planning. Please let me know in the Visibility Vibes group how you get on, because I absolutely love doing this kind of stuff. And for a few clients over the few years, I start off doing what I call a life plan. We look at different areas of your life. It might be relationships, family, business, pleasure. You know, it could be whatever you feel you would like to focus on. But use those 5 steps. Don't deviate from it. Don't sort of put your own twist in on something that's worked. Just literally follow that process. Allow it to work for you first before you look at kind of deviating and twisting and turning from it. And I guarantee you will start to see things come to fruition. Hope that was helpful. And I really, really hope that answered the question for the lovely person that submitted that question. So in response to today's Q&A question, which was how to work towards stuff without making energy sapping goals, go through that process. Even going through that process feels yummy and juicy. Let me know how you get on, and if you've got any other supplementary questions, go over to the Visibility Vibes tribe page, which is facebook.com/groups/be seen, be heard, get visible. Click and ask to join. I'll let you in, and you'll be in good company of just shy of 380 other good vibers. And if you know people that should be in that group too, get them to come in. It's free. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing the wonderful things that you get up to in the world. And as this is the last Q&A Wednesday before Christmas, for those of you that are celebrating Christmas, have a very, very Merry Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side of Christmas. Bye for now.